Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 186. It's so nice to reconnect with all of you. It's been so long. I mean, in some ways, it feels like it was forever ago that we had our last session. At the same time, the whole Pesach feels like it went really fast. So I don't know about all of you. Sometimes it feels very fast, sometimes it feels very slow. I hope you all did have an enjoyable Pesach. I hope there were positive moments of connection and joy and a feeling of freedom in some way, right? Even though we may have been very busy and had a lot going on. But I do invite you to acknowledge it's always good to start by seeing something good that you dealt with, something good that you experienced, whether it was a personal victory, whether it was something that was positive that happened, whether you enjoyed a certain element of it. It's important to look at the good. It's important to acknowledge the things that have worked, the things that have made a difference for you. And it's also powerful to use, as I think I mentioned in the last time we had a session, it's positive to use the experiences of challenge, right? Anything that was difficult, to use that not as a something to get stuck on, something to feel down about, something to feel depressed and kind of like stuck in, but instead to use that as a sign, a clear indication of what's next to work on. I know this was like a big changing point in my life when I realized that, my struggles, anything I was struggling with, anything that I was dealing with, I used to relate to it as like, "Oh, this is so hard. This is like the thing that I get stuck in. This is like it's not fair that I have this challenge, or why do I have this issue?" And it would like really bring me down and make me feel defeated and deflated and hopeless. And then I realized, wait a second, hold on. Let's look at this a different way. What I realized is that whatever challenge I was experiencing was actually a message, a very clear indication. I really felt it like a clear message from God, like, Hannah, this is exactly what you need to be working on, right? There's going to be things you don't need to work on because you've worked on them already. This is not in your challenge. Like, this is something that you are already or have already overcome, or was not in your something that you needed to work on. And then there's going to be those things that are like so not where you're at. Like, you don't need to work on that thing. Like, that's way, beyond where you're at. It's not even going to register for you as something to deal with. And what you actually feel is your challenge, where you're actually struggling, that's an indication like, oh, the fact that it is in your line of vision, and the fact that it bothers you, and the fact that it's so clear to you that that's not the way you want things to be, that's an indication, a clear message that this right now is your, I don't want to use the word battle because it we don't that has like a negative connotation, but I remember like as a kid kind of learning this idea that, we just like in a war, there's like the part of the land that you've already conquered that's already yours, that's not a fight. And then there's the part that's like totally enemy territory. That's not where the war is happening. It's happening in that like no man's land, like where the actual battle is happening. And that's the picture I think of, like that idea of like that whatever you're struggling with is an indication of what your main avoda is right now. That's a good word, right? What your spiritual work, your emotional work, which is really all spiritual work, right? Everything that we're working on is our spiritual work. It's specifically what we get to work on right now. And that's why, as we're in this time period, which is so ripe for personal growth and dealing with improving our relationships, right? That, whether it's because Pesach is over and we feel this like spring feeling, this like, oh, now that I'm not thinking of all the Pesach stuff, now that I'm like on the other side of Pesach, at the same time, we're going into Sfirat HaOmer, we're in Sfirat HaOmer, right? Where there's like this idea of like counting and counting towards. And a lot of people are talking about spiritual growth and personal growth and relating to the spheres as relationship growth. We've been doing that in the Keeping Calm and Connected, which actually kind of just wrapped up today. We're going to have a live call next week, but we finished all the pocket coaching today. it was so powerful to like take these ideas and relate them specifically to the challenges that we have in our relationships. That's what we did for the last week. That also because it's just like like spring, and it's like there's a feeling of freshness, there's a feeling of newness, there's a feeling of renewal, right? So with all of that, as we're thinking of like what am I going to work on, what am I going to take on, whether it's a project or a personal growth project, if you're going to try to accomplish something, the thing that we so often don't want to look at is like, where am I actually struggling right now? Right. Because we get this burst of inspiration. I want to work on this. I want to, you know, get somewhere in life. And we just want to like focus on where we want to get to. We don't want to take that time to like survey and be like, wait, where am I now? Right. I'll give a very practical, like physical example, which I think many people can relate to after Pesach, and everyone's like sitting around our table going like, "Oh my gosh, after Pesach, I have to start like eating healthy again." I know a lot of people talk about like Pesach, like, oh, they don't even like Pesach food. Thank God, me and my family, we love Pesach food. We love Pesach cookies, especially. It's a little thing about us. We love Pesach cookies. We make these like matzah cookies and even the non-matzah cookies. There's something about Pesach cookies that we really, really enjoy. So we were just eating so many cookies over Pesach. It's like our special treat of the year. These special Pesach cookies. I know it sounds funny because people don't like Pesach cookies, but we really do. So maybe we have to try my family recipes. It comes from my grandmother. I don't even know if anyone else in my family makes it, but I make it. My kids are obsessed with them. Oh my gosh, we can't stop eating them. So after we're all like, okay, now we have to like eat a little healthier or a lot healthier. We got to get back into, our exercise, into our healthy eating. And send me an email. I'll send you the recipe if you'd like it. So, as we're talking about this, like, even the conversation came up, someone was like, I don't even want to go on the scale. I don't even want to go on the scale. Right. And that's like people have different connotations with the scale, but the idea of what's the scale? The idea of the scale is get on the scale to know information. Where am I now? Where am I starting? How like off have I gone, right? How bad did it get? Where do I want to get to? Because if we just say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to get healthy, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? I remember years ago when my husband and I were first married, after like a year or two, he said to me, I want to be healthy. I want to eat healthy. And I was like, okay, what does that mean to you? He's like, I want to eat healthy, whatever that means, healthy. And I was like, hold on a second. Eating healthy can mean like at least 10 different things. Like, what do you mean by eating healthy? Do you want to cut out sugar? Do you want to have low carb? Do you want to eat only like whole wheat? Do you want to eat more veggies? Do you want to like go keto? Like, what do you mean when you say healthy? Because what one person's version of healthy is to another person would not be healthy, right? I know, like, I have my healthy way that I eat, right? And I've gone to these like healthy restaurants where I'm like, I don't want to eat anything here. Either it doesn't fit with like my own sensitivities, or I know that a lot of these things are not going to be good for me and for my health journey. So there's so many just saying I want to be healthy can mean a million things, and that's how most people end up failing in their, and we're just using this as an example, in their desire, in their journey towards health, is that it's not clear enough. What do they mean by it, and where are they starting from? Right? What's the starting point? We're scared to acknowledge the starting point, right? You don't want to get on the scale. We don't want to look and see, wait, really, where am I struggling in my marriage? Like, what's really not working? We don't want to acknowledge maybe how hard it is, how challenging it is. It's hard to acknowledge, let's put it this way. It's hard to acknowledge, like, what is it that really bothers my husband? Right? What is it about my husband that really bothers me? We don't want to look at those things. It's hard, it's scary, it's vulnerable. And yet, if we don't look at it, we lose out on so many important pieces of information and so many important parts of the journey. Number one is we don't actually know what we need to do, right? Because you could be saying, I want to work on my relationship. Okay, I'm going to work on, I don't know, I'm going to make sure I am really careful about my tone of voice. But you don't even realize the things that are bothering you. Maybe you don't even realize when you get upset and your tone of voice changes because you're not acknowledging what's really upsetting you. You might say, I really want to work on giving my husband, making him more food during the day, being more available to like help him and what's the word I'm looking like support him. Meanwhile, your husband might be thinking, I don't care if you make me breakfast. That doesn't matter to me. I want to know that you want me, right? I want more physical affection. It could be that you're working on physical affection and your husband's like, I just want to feel like you're interested in what I have to say, that like you respect the things that I want to talk about and you're not just trying to push me into more emotional conversation. There could be so many examples. I'm just giving specific things. You could be saying, I really want to work on myself, and what you think that means is I need to take a walk every day and I need to make sure that I dive in and I need to, I need to read this book every day. Meanwhile, what's really bothering you is that you're not feeling present with your children, or you're finding yourself again getting upset and you don't know why. And meanwhile, all the things that you're doing to try to on this like journey that might be actually taking you away from what you actually need to focus on. And this is sometimes difficult because we have these blind spots. We don't may not even know what really the issue is. That's the power of having accountability and guidance, right? That it's so important. That's why coaching is so helpful. And with all of that, it's so important to really look at, where am I starting out? So that you can be real with yourself about what your journey is, right? What is it that I really do need to work on so that you're not avoiding the most vulnerable things, which are what you most need? That's number one. If you don't know, look at where am I now? What's actually the problem? You don't know what journey you actually need to take. You also, and this is a bit of one of the most important things in the journey is being able to celebrate victories. Because here's the truth about a journey. It starts out really exciting. It starts out really fun. It's new, it's fresh, it's exciting. We're going to go on this journey. And then it's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we still here? Are we still on this journey? It takes time, it takes energy. And one of the things that the most important thing to stay on the journey is to be able to acknowledge the victories, the wins, to see the movement that you've made, to acknowledge your progress. If you refuse to see where you started, how are you going to acknowledge your progress? Right? So, to use our example from the beginning, if you didn't step on this scale, how are you going to know? It could be that you're like, oh, it's so annoying. Nothing's happening. I don't feel any different. Meanwhile, you may have lost 10 pounds and you have no way of knowing because you never stepped on the scale to begin with, right? So if you're not taking the pulse of where you are, if you're not checking the pulse, your finger isn't on the pulse of where you're starting, how are you going to acknowledge your growth? How are you going to be able to celebrate how far you've come and also be able to course correct if something isn't working? If you're like, yeah, I'm on this health journey, just to use that example, I'm on this health journey, and then you find that rather than losing weight, you're gaining weight because you do continue to step on the scale, you started out on the scale, then you might realize, wait, what's my version of healthy? Maybe that's not working for me, right? But if you didn't step on the scale in the first place, how will you know if it's working or not working? So, number one, if you don't know where you're starting, how do you know what journey to take? Number two, how will you be able to celebrate the victories as you collect them, which is so important for staying motivated and staying on the journey when it starts to lose its momentum, which is always going to happen. And number three, how will you know how to course correct if and when things are not exactly going smoothly or are not working. And we have to remember that, like, there's always going to be different variables that are going to come into play. And we have to be able to have a way to see what's working, what's not working, right? We have to have a way to assess this the journey that we're taking. So yes, it's painful, and yes, it's vulnerable, and yes, it can be scary to look at, what do I really need help with? What's really going on? What am I really feeling? What are the thoughts and feelings and actions that are most getting in the way of what it is that I want to achieve, right? That's most stopping me from feeling confident. That's stopping me from feeling connected. That's stopping me from feeling calm. That's stopping me from feeling love or loved. That's stopping me from feeling good in where I am. When we really look at those questions, that is going to give us the exact steps, going back to what we said from the beginning, that becomes, oh, like a whisper in your ear from Hashem. This is the next stage in your journey. This is exactly what you get to work on. This is where you're at. This is what you now get to work on. You now get to overcome. You get to work through and get to the other side. And how powerful is that, right? How powerful is that? Rather than seeing it as something painful, you get to acknowledge it as information that gives you clarity as to what are your next best steps. So I really invite you to take a moment to think about it, right? What are the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, the words, the experiences that you feel are most getting in the way of who you want to be, what you want to create, what you want to be experiencing, right? What's stopping you? What's getting in the way? What's holding you back from what it is that you really want to have in life, that you really want to be experiencing, that you really want to be able to look at and feel good about? What's holding you back? And once you've thought about it, I want to send you a special invitation to let me know. Share it with me. You can send it in an email. You can respond to your coffee and connection email that you got this week. I'll actually be sending out a separate email tomorrow specifically asking this question. And I'll tell you why this is so important. Number one, it'll give you accountability. It'll give you clarity, just like we said. It's your, so to speak, step on the scale, right? It gives you that information. You now have the accountability. You see, this is where I'm struggling. So that can help you figure out s- clearly, right, what your next steps are. And it can also help you to see when your what your victories are and how to course correct, right? It's going to give you that accountability. Also, and this is very exciting, everyone. I'm in the middle of planning the Next With All Your Heart series. Please God, we're going to be launching next week, right? Next week starts the promotion. There is so much that I want to share with you, and there's so much that the experts are sharing with you. I've started doing some of the interviews. Amazing, amazing. I'm so excited for you to hear them already. And I want to make sure that I address what you most want to hear. Now, there'll be a lot of new women coming into the community, please God, and so many different issues that can be coming up. But I want to make sure that I first and foremost serve all of you and make sure that your biggest issues get addressed, right? That I'm speaking to what really matters to you right now because we have so many different things that we think about and we worry about, and we talk a lot about different things in this program, in this community. But I want to make sure that I'm addressing specifically what's coming up for you in this moment at this point of time, right? And so it would really be helpful for me to know what is coming up for you so that I can then speak to that. I can then take space for your biggest struggles and make sure that I am addressing them, right? Because if I'm not helping you, then what's the point, right? That's what we're here for. So that's what I'm going to invite you to really acknowledge for yourself. What is your struggle? What is the thought? right? Someone here has shared an inner negative belief. Thank you for sharing that. It may be an inner negative belief, like you find yourself thinking certain things. It may be that you find yourself feeling a certain way. It may be that you find that you have certain moods or kind of like moodiness that comes over you and gets in the way. Maybe that certain actions just keep happening over and over. You find yourself saying certain words, having certain thoughts in your mind, like, about your husband or about yourself or about your family, right? Like really acknowledging. And if you're like, I don't know, there's so many different things. Well, what's the most recent? What's been coming up the most in, even in the last few busy weeks that everyone was together? Right? Then there was so much that needed to get done. What came up for you and had you feel like it was getting in the way? Whether it's something about you or maybe it's something about somebody else. Maybe you feel like, no, it's just because my husband is like this or my kids are like that, or if only, whatever, everything was different in the world. Whatever it is, whatever really comes up for you authentically is important to acknowledge so that you then can clearly see what your next best steps are. And that's what I'm excited to provide for you. It's what I'm excited to support you in. I'm excited for you all to be a part of the Next with All Your Heart. Don't forget when you get that email to sign up that you do sign up, right? I don't, since there's so many emails that go out with all your heart, I always want to make sure that if you're receiving them because you want them. So don't just assume that because you're part of this community that you'll get the with all your heart. And if you don't know what with all your heart is, you're in for a treat. Bezrat Hashem. It's one of my favorite things to do every year. It's so fun. We have a whole interview series and trainings and things that go along with it, and it's where you really get a very clear taste of not just my methods and how I can support you, but also you get to hear from other women who are doing amazing things in the Jewish community to hear their ideas as well. So you get a whole gamut, a whole beautiful wide spectrum of amazing tools that can really make a difference for you. And that is the goal of the series. It runs for about 3 weeks or so. I have, as of now, over 10 amazing speakers who are going to be sharing their thoughts. You get to hear our conversations, talking about their work, and there's so much that goes into this and so much that's available for you to get support and really see clearly for yourself what your next best steps are. So I look forward to that and I look forward to hearing from you. Please send me an email. I look forward to reading it. I read all of them personally, and it will really make a difference for me and for all of you to get that feedback and have that clarity to be able to support you in the best way that I can. So I look forward to seeing you next week here. We'll still have Coffee and Connection next week. I look forward, like I said, to hearing from you. I wish us all Hatzlacha in this next stage of the journey. What a pleasure that we always get to do Sfirat HaOmer together with the series, and I look forward to all of you being there with me. So I'll see you next week. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.